And if we get into it, if we get anything that we like, we'll keep it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so the nature, what I was talking about, it's the nature of art series. This
Yeah.
is, you have a skill, you have some kind of idea what you want to do, but you are not coherent, so you don't exist like an artist. You know, like,
Right.
because the artist is coherence. It's a, and that's what we're doing here. And it takes interesting turns sometimes, you know.
Well, and I think it's interesting because there's this, I've been thinking about this, there's this exquisite balance, right? Between doing what's in your heart, right? What you love, and then pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone. And both those things have to happen. Like I just introduced a new technique in pastels yesterday where I had everybody working with a Sharpie and an underpainting. And I had one student say, you know, I really liked the underpainting, but I don't know how I feel about the Sharpie. And what I wanted to say to her was, look, ultimately, I want you to totally pick what you want to do. And it's very valid to say, but I also, because you said that, I'm going to require that you do Sharpie for the next 2 exercises. Right? Like there's a.
You're so mean, Leah.
No, but come on, Jane, you guys did it.
I'm kidding.
Today with Sharpies. Come on. It was incredible.
Oh, that class was so much fun.
Including her. Like it was phenomenal. So there's this, I think we get into these phases where we listen to one, like we either go in our own zone, which is important to do, but it's also important to pull back and expand so that you evolve.
But then that technique could become your technique because you invested little bit. It caused some pain and doubt, and suddenly it starts working out, and you're amazed how it happens.
Right.
And it becomes your thing.
Or you figure out how to apply that. Like you're like, I didn't like it with this, but what if I did it with this other thing I do?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's like connecting the dots. I love just grabbing bits and pieces from all the lessons I've had since I was a kid and smashing them together and seeing how they play. I'm all about experimenting and pushing materials beyond their boundaries. Maybe it's not archival, but I don't really give a shit. That's not my job to worry about. We'll let the preservation worry about that.
I've watched. But then on the other hand, sometimes we ignore the obvious because it's the thing we want to do, right? Like, so that's where I'm like kind of playing around. I'm interested in the balance because some things are obvious that we just should do them. And other things, and we miss it because we're like trying to push ourselves. And then other things we find uncomfortable, but they also, it's just an interesting thing to know when to do what.
But in the end, the goal is, I think, to be comfortable with materials you acquire during your lifetime of learning, you know?
Yes.
Just to produce art with stuff, you know, with stuff that makes you comfortable, and to be coherent. Yeah, I don't want to use that, but yeah, to create the body of work that represents you in that particular maybe decade, because people are changing, you know, the things are changing.
Yeah.
But I think 10 years, it's the valid kind of.
It gets in the canon, right? It becomes like part of normal.
And then slightly changing, slightly. Yeah, I saw so many contemporary artists doing really stuff I would never expect they would do, returning to something that I thought would be absolutely not destination for contemporary art, you know. Right now I see a lot of young hipstery kind of types turning to modernism, you know, of 20th century art, which is like, let's say 10 years ago, it was like, oh my God, who's gonna paint like that anymore, you know? It's in a museum, and suddenly new generation is coming and they're doing their narratives, and it's like very interesting to see they take on Picasso, on Matisse, on Philip Gaston. Yeah, so
Right, and now you're making me think about pop art in the former Soviet Union, because I feel like pop art hit the former Soviet Union in the 80s and the 90s,
I
right? It
think,
was 60s thing.
yeah.
But the Iron Curtain really allowed that stuff to start leaking through. So when I was,
Stuff was always leaking into Bohemian circles.
yeah.
Always. So the Soviet answer is one of my, actually, I know the guy very well. We traveled together with his wife to Georgia from New York. It's this famous duo, Soviet artists, Kamar and Melamed. So Kamar is my friend. They're like in their 70s now. Very old. So Kamar and Melamed, they came to US via Israel. And the first action they did, they sold to Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
And that is document exists. I'm selling myself for that sum to Andy Warhol. So that's the, and so that make them, so, but they answer to pop, so they answer, I actually talked to him. They answer to pop art, something called sots art.
Sots.
Not like socialist realism art or social conscious art, sots art, like pop art. And so he said, I am an Alec Melamed, it's Kamar is telling me story. Very young guys, and we work in an anatomy lesson, art academy in the morgue. So corpse in front of us and we drawing the muscles. It's that type of education they got, you know? And so we drawing the muscles, corpse is laying down, and I'm telling to Alec, hey, Alec, you know, in America, there is something called pop art. And Alec is asking me, what is that? It's something that they see every day in their stores, in the mundane life, and they're just painting on the big canvases. There is a guy named Andy Warhol, and he did that, like, you know, cans of soup. And,
Yes.
And it become, and Alec, look outside the window, and there is like big banner spread, glory to communism. You know, if you travel or you remember the Soviet Union, it's a red banners with the white handwritten letters was all over the propaganda, you know, like cheap.
Yeah.
And so they said, that's what we see every day. And so they created this answer, so it's art. They will put, so no one, remember I was explaining this Haltura term, no one would in their conscious mind on their time without pain to write those banners, you know?
Right, they're terrible. And
So
yes, it's irony.
And they start doing it as they arched it.
Ironic.
So they would say, communism will come, Kamar and Melamed, you know, like that's kind of banners. And so from there, they created this sorts of art. They were painting Stalin, they were painting Lenin. And so that was Soviet answer. I would try to find the images if you guys don't mind.
Yeah.
Great. And you're making me think, and Ladochka, the people that I knew some artists in Armenia who are in their 60s. So, you know, going to college and starting to express themselves in art school in the 80s. And one is a woman named Gorine Matsakian. And she did a whole series on like Kinder eggs. like she had Armenian churches popping out of them, and like she absolutely described her art. A lot of the early, there was a Brazilian coffee that came through Armenia in the 80s and had a dude, anyway, she painted that. Like she had all this stuff that I was like, oh my God, this is pop art, but I've never seen anything. It's not like the pop art I saw, right? Because it's not what I grew up around. So weird little archival record, an ironic record of like kind of what people encountered, when they encountered it, how it.
So that I'm gonna send right now, I'm gonna send Kamar and Melamed painting. They use the social realism type of style, and it's kind of muse painting portrait of Joseph Stalin. And it's amazing. It's amazing, guys. Check it out.
Hey, Leah, who was the artist during Portland Open Studios? Female, person of color. She was located in the space off of MLK.
Maria Wickwire.
She's the one who does the pop art, like play, little packaged products. She is blowing
She's
my
pop
mind.
art of
She
today.
is
She's
pop art
art
of our current
today.
culture. She's amazing.
Yeah, she's really great.
She needs,
She
like,
talked
I
about,
hope she's
look,
discovered.
I have to look and see if she's applied again this year. She was very shy. She had a real hard time. We paired her with Cole Reed, who
Yeah,
is,
and Callie Holt.
yeah. And so Cole was very protective of her during Open Studios. If anybody like made any negative comments, like called him over and in her cold way kind of told him off, or
Cole is amazing as
corrected
well.
them.
Her
And
is she? Did she go by she Cole? Or they?
Cole goes by she.
Okay.
And then at least as far as I know, yes, I'm pretty sure. And then Maria said afterwards that she wanted to do a zine for us. So what I haven't seen is whether she's applied again. So I need to check that. I'll check that. Thank you for reminding me. But yeah, that's kind of a pop art, like black
And
artist
what
now.
great commentary, right? It's like
Yeah.
the perfect commentary on our culture right now. It's amazing and well executed,
Very
and
well executed.
but not done to the point of it's over polished and looking too corporate. It still looks very handmade, and I love that.
I'm so
Yeah, she
glad
was
you
fun to
remember
talk
her.
to.
She was fantastic. We were really
She
happy.
was fantastic. Yeah,
And she
and
went,
Cole as well.
and she quit at some point during, and we talked her back into it. Like she was trying, she didn't want to do it. She's excruciatingly shy. She was having trouble finding a studio that worked. She was having trouble. Cole had a moment where she was being harassed by a white supremacist here. So she wasn't very, people were emailing her and she wasn't emailing back because she was, really going through it. And so there was a point where Maria was like, I quit. And we went, no. So I called up Cole and said, well, I don't know what's going on. And then she told me. And then I said, this woman is really fragile. And we think this work is great. And it needs, she needs a little
People
hand.
need to see her work for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And she needs hand holding. She doesn't feel okay being out there on her own. And so Cole really took her on in a way.
Oh, that makes me happy.
Yeah, it was a wonderful story. And thanks for reminding me, because I would love to see a zine come out of this for our 25th
Yeah,
year.
her work, it's just totally goes along with what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
It's
For those
just the
guys who don't know, she did these kind of clay action figures, little action figure dolls that are connected to Black poverty. The best
and
way
she
to
put
put
them in like bubble, like she had them packaged like they were in a store. It was
like a Barbie. Like
yeah,
they were,
it's awesome.
they were fantastic. I'm trying to remember one. One is like they'd be called things like do you remember any of the words?
Because they were just like, I was just staring at them like laughing and also like crying inside, and because she's making it light, she's taking a serious subject, turning it into a toy and being very tongue-in-cheek and clever. Like, she is so smart. I understand why she's shy, and I did get to meet her, and yes, I got that vibe off of her.
She's real shy.
Because she did try to hide. She was trying to hide from people, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
It was very funny.
I'm
I
not
actually
surprised.
wandered in there when Dan Pillars wandered in at the same time. So
Oh, Jesus Christ. I would be hiding from Dan too. He would terrify me.
he's hard to get away from. But
So
yeah,
I think what's interesting about this idea is that pop art for Andy Warhol and his crew in the 60s, it had a different meaning in the US in the 70s and the 80s, in the Soviet Union, right? It had it was used, the concept was used, but it's executed completely differently. We have to return to it because it's such a great way.
Andy Warhol is a genius. Andy Warhol is a genius.
Yeah, he got his name. So he figured the movement, and everybody else is just and same with modernism, right? Like, it's the same thing. It's like modernism is a great way to convey what you, I don't know.
Yeah, but I was talking about stylistically, it's a little bit, even for me, but now I see there is like a nostalgia, because when I was growing up, that was the main thing.
Right,
And
instead
when
of the big new thing, it's a nostalgic like return. to
nostalgic and they're like
something as
digging in it,
was.
and it's very interesting. The results are so. That's what. Yeah, it's a many ways to be an artist. It's a many ways to thinking. I think the packaging, the figurines representing poverty is amazing, amazing thing. I think it's so smart. I didn't see, I didn't see the works, but like, yeah, wow, that's the pretty cool.
I
That's-
may have taken some photos. I'll have to go back through my camera roll after class, and if I did, I'll post one to the chat.
yeah.
That would be great. That would be really great. They are pretty amazing. If I can find any Garina Matsaki and Kinder Egg pieces too, I'll send those over. They're pretty awesome as well.
I love that Kinder Egg. I do. That's awesome.
But they had the Armenian church coming out of one. I mean, she basically was saying fucking like, I don't know, tradition. She was challenging traditionalism,
Yeah, totally.
but in a very funny way.
And also probably I mean, when was she making these? You lived there a long time ago.
The 90s.
Yeah. So like, that's also and she is a female artist.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty risky as well.
Oh yeah.
So that's awesome.
I don't think so. I don't think it's risky.
I think
Well,
she's
in her culture, I think it was probably risky for her to do it.
No.
No?
Females ruling the world right there. There is nothing risky for Georgian or Armenian women to do. They could be any career. They could, yeah, I don't know. I never thought some female artists in Caucasus, Georgia or Armenia, Christian countries at least, could be in danger because she's producing some. I don't think so.
I think risky is the word. I think it's just she had a harder time being taken seriously.
That's true. Yeah, that's maybe, yeah. Because
seriously as her colleagues. No, it wasn't risky. By the 90s, Peggy, it wasn't really risky. Probably the biggest risk is people wouldn't get it, right? Like it's like, right? Like they wouldn't understand it. But I think she did not. She's a very accomplished painter, and I don't think she got the cred that her male colleagues did.
maybe, Peggy, maybe I don't understand what you mean, but by risky, I mean she would not be in danger.
Yeah.
Okay,
She
well, I
wasn't
wasn't
sure,
sure.
out of jail or anything.
That was a while ago, and I wasn't sure what was going on over there then.
No,
The
no,
90s was a good time. I mean, it was a hopeful time. It was like when people felt like the possibilities, when the world was opening up, not like it is now. Nobody knew that we would get to this fucking place, but like, I mean, it's open, sort of. But there was a kind of really naive hope, I think, then that like, hey, we can overcome all this. Lotto knows it better. He was there.
Yeah.
First, it was not a great time for you though, Lotto. So
I don't know.
90s?
No, I didn't know.
90s was not good.
No, it was terrible.
Yeah.
All that hopes and everything. I lost everything. We lost the war. I become refugee.
Yeah, you had to run.
I was really in a strange kind of, not good. I couldn't get anywhere, and
Yeah.
I was just to educate myself, inner kind of internal immigration.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not good. It's very poor, and
You just had to write. I mean, you were forced by circumstances.
I was first.
It had a big impact on your daily life. Let's put it that way.
I use them perfectly. It's a foundation for everything I do right now. Yeah, but it
was tough.
Best was opening, but not for me. I couldn't even imagine to go and study something. It would not be for me.
Right.
Yeah, all those NGOs and everything, it was for they kind of people,
Yeah. Yeah.
There was
still that hierarchy of, and you unfortunately lived in a part of the former Soviet Union that the Russians wanted and they took. So like that is what it is. So that's it's funny, like there's all this discussion in Russia, like artists, like, you know, like having a great time and going, oh, this is great. And I get to meet artists from other places and blah, blah, blah. But for some people, that was not good. It was very not
No,
good.
it was not.
Now it's better.
Huh?
Now it's better,
Now
right?
it's better because Georgia did a lot of reforming, a lot of soul searching. Georgia now needs no visas to European Union. You're just buying ticket, you're flying to Paris. That's it, you know. So world is really open, and the young Georgians are different. There is, like, for example, it was unimaginable. So now we have a soccer superstar playing for Napoli in Italy,
that's
right?
right.
And Napoli is the first team right now in Italian championship, and they like cruising, amazing, and he's amazing. So there is the flight to Tbilisi, Napoli to see his games. Fans are coming on the planes to
Amazing.
see just one. It was unheard, you know, in my time. So yeah. And I don't know what to say. But I think Russians are very politically and socially weak people, and that brings a lot of problems to everyone around them. And so that's.
It's always interesting times. It's like you can't put like a word on it and have it be one thing, right? For
think-
somebody it's good, and for other people it's very bad. And it's always that way.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
guess the interesting thing is there is something in the bad that can be transformative and held on to.
No, for me, yes, I'm a strong character. I know my goals, and I always knew what I'm gonna do. So I used it perfectly.
Right.
I graduated for Art Academy, and I was building my career there, whatever it is. Yeah, it's just it's never ending, you know. Like Russians are. I came to think you can distinguish the country and nation not by the elites, because the elites are similar everywhere, you know. Intellectual elite will talk about fucking Derrida all the time or wherever. Yep. Philosopher over time. Economical elite will share same yachts and watches and Switzerland Alps. They same. You can distinguish country by the low class, by poor, and how they aggressive or not, what they up to. And so in this sense, Russians are horrible. They want a war. Yeah. And it's many of them. And so, you know, and that's unfortunate for all of us.
What's wrong with Russians?
They love the war. Life is miserable, and suddenly you hear the trumpets and drums, and you marching with your buddies. You abusing, you pillaging, you burning. Your life is complete. You're getting experience and get paid. Sometimes you're dying. It's very easy for them to die. You know.
Yeah.
That's what's wrong with them. They love it.
The darkness of the Russian soul.
It's like to ask what's wrong with Mongols. I don't know. They were just rolling on their horses through the world from China to Europe. What was wrong with them? I don't know what was wrong with them. They ruled Russia for half millennium.
Yeah.
They left a lot of the heritage there. You know, 400 years, it's a lot of time. And so Russians are real heirs of the Ord, you know, golden Ord. I don't know where they're going, what they're marching, what they want, why they're killing, why they're burning, why they're shelling cities. I have no idea. But they love it. People love it. Don't get carried like, oh, bloody Putin. But people love it. People love it. 80% support for Putin.
So if Putin was to be taken out, there is someone else standing ready?
We don't know. It could be two ways. I'm not political expert. I'm just using my whatever little knowledge of living there with them and knowing their culture, because it's my native language. That's also very weird, you know. I'm like, I was looking at the Mennonites here, Amish. And those Amish are talking German, called Pennsylvania Deutsch. It's kind of 17th century Swabian dialect of German, you know. some Germans can't hardly understand it, but it is a German. And I was thinking, I'm like them. I'm carrying this Russian language in me, like they do the German. I have no connection to that land, to that nation, to that people. Last time I've been there is 2002, and I would never go, you know?
Yeah.
And it's so weird. It's so weird. I met the guy yesterday on the sidelines. That's the interesting thing about Cornell. On the sidelines of soccer game, I met the very accomplished neuro scientist whose mom is Barbara Goldberg, famous poet. She's in her 80s.
Interesting.
And he said she's never happy because she never achieved what she wanted to achieve. For example, Pulitzer Prize maybe, or Booker Prize, or, you know, like she got that. I said, listen, but she got a lot of what our people, if you look from the side, wow, she's so accomplished as a poet. Anyway, what I was saying, and I read her biography yesterday. So her parents were German-speaking Jewish immigrants from Germany, you know? But they carried the German language in them, you know? They didn't speak any other language. They're the Germans, you know? Isn't it amazing? And that's the only thing I can relate to. I'm carrying this Russian language with me, but I'm abused and tortured and expelled by Russian from my land. But I have that language in me. I don't know.
It's so weird. It's there have been a whole books about that written about the weird symbiotic, the sort of what do you call it? Codependence between Jews and Germans, because Germany was one of the first place that accepted Jews. 300 years back, right? So they were like, come on in, Wiccan stuff. Like, we want all you philosophers and you. So it was hundreds of years of like, come on in. Now, bam. And then a sudden drop kick to the guts.
I know. And so that's what's going to happen. The question, what's going to happen? I don't know. They put a lot of propaganda machine into the Putin's persona. He's absolutely idiot, evil guy. But they put a lot of state support behind it. We don't understand it. Living in a kind of free society, we don't understand that. This
we do.
Huge umbrella of propaganda, And
we understand it. They do it. The Republicans did it with Trump.
Not quite the same.
Not the level to which it's happening in Russia. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying we can get a glimpse of what it might be like.
Not the same. I mean, it's hard to understand. It really is like the closest. It's a Nazi Germany, one party, one leader, one like narrative, and he's perfect. He does everything. He's like walking like a man and talks like stupid stuff, really so stupid. So they put a lot of effort in him. So next guy who comes doesn't have a PR behind him.
Yeah.
So he's gonna look weak in person, and he needs to reform. So he already looks weak, and he's gonna look weak. Or it needs to be even more bloodier kind of guy than Putin, So I don't know.
Possible.
I don't know what's gonna happen. But I feel huge fatigue in the world from this,
Yeah. Well, and in the meantime, people suffer like seriously materially over this fucking idea. Like, it's like.
You mean Russians?
Everyone. I think Ukrainians.
Russians are fine.
I'm not talking about the Russians. I'm talking about the Ukrainians. I'm talking about.
Ukrainians are a country destroyed.
They suffer from this idea.
Russians are fine with material. Oh yeah, a little bit of vodka, a little bit of potato. Let's go marching. I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. I know it sounds ironical. That's what they are, and it's time to say it because it's not generalization. It really is. It's my deep knowledge of this culture. My deep knowledge of this culture.
Yep.
Very simple.
And all I'm saying is these are, so we have this conversation. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Should we just put up the whole thing and call it something?
No, it's not. It's just that, you know what? You cannot talk about art, not to talk about life.
Yeah.
It's absolutely kind of with each other. And so that's what we're having. We say suddenly we're living in this peculiar historical moment, which is for me, it's like many decades now. For you, just starting. You know, I
Right.
think like a prices on eggs, like a dozen eggs, $8. Because of that, you know, because of that war, because crop is not coming, you know, and stuff like that. We all connected, so we all feel it, you know.
Well,
Am I the
and
only one who's not
information is more
experiencing?
available.
Huh?
I'm not experiencing this high egg price. I have not suffered with the eggs. I don't, and Leah, are you buying eggs? Because we live in the same city.
Oh, there are a lot of chickens in the city here. No, I
Yeah,
don't have
so,
to worry
right,
about
so we don't have to worry about
it. Everybody I know has a chicken.
But even Winco, like I bought
Everyone I know.
expensive eggs at Winco for $4 a dozen. So that's
Yeah,
pretty affordable.
Everyone has chickens. Everybody
Yeah.
has city chickens, and they're the
So you
best.
see, guys, it's so good. We all perish, but Portland survives.
Right, because we have our city chickens
City chickens of Portland. This is very important.
and our little victory gardens.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I should we should have chickens, but Frank said we're not having chickens.
Yeah, but you have a big old orchard, a fruit orchard that
Yeah.
bears fruit
Yeah.
all year long. Avocados, lemons, oranges, mangoes, pomegranates,
No
plums,
mangoes.
apricots,
I wish I had
had
mangoes.
mangoes.
No
bananas.
mangoes.
Didn't you just plant some banana trees?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm-
bananas.
You know, the banana trees are really tropical, so they need a lot of water. But you know, I've had them on and off. But as soon as they